Good evening, everyone. I'm Rebecca Price with the Nashville Public Library's Special Collections Division, which is right upstairs on the second floor and home to two of Nashville's beloved community spaces, the Civil Rights Room and the Votes for Women's Room. If you haven't visited those spaces yet, I invite all of you to return and explore these places that tell stories and share experiences of Nashville's rich and diverse history. I want to welcome everyone here tonight for the final program in this year's season of Then and Now, the history of Nashville's minority communities, presented by Vanderbilt University. Nashville Public Library Special Collections is honored to host this series, and we're thankful to all of you here tonight and for those watching live on YouTube. As such, please be mindful that we are recording tonight's program. Please remember to validate your parking ticket if you parked in the library garage, which will validate up to 90 minutes, and the validation machine is located at the main circulation desk in the lobby. Before we begin tonight's program, let us be reminded that we occupy the ancestral and traditional lands of the Cherokee, Shawnee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Creek nations. We are humbled and we honor all the ancestors of this land on which we meet today, from the elders who have gone before to the generations to come. It is now my pleasure to introduce Vanderbilt's Dr. André Churchwell, with us tonight in his role as Senior Advisor to the Chancellor on Inclusion and Community Outreach. Dr. Churchwell.
There you go. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you all for coming. This is our 11th and last program of this season. This is our second season and the end of the close of that season now. It's important that we have partners. We can't do this by ourselves. We have the Special Collections section of the library represented by Rebecca Price and her great team. We also have Millions of Conversations. That team represented here by Samara Lee and her team. Really appreciate them for working with us on this project, and also the Engine for Art, Democracy, and Justice. That's a great program out of Vanderbilt, started by Maria Campos Pond's amazing MacArthur Award winner, gifted genius artist who takes art and uses it for social justice here and around the world. And we'll see some of that towards the end of the program here. As we continue to turn the globe, as we've done with this program, we have arrived in North Africa. This area is populated with the country states of Sudan, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, and Algiers. This, again, is another area of the world whose culture, religion, art, food, and dress add to our growing, diverse, and multicultural city. Today, aided by Sheikh Osama, resident scholar of the Islamic Center of Nashville, who's been a great partner in pulling this together, we'll bring a number of community leaders who are from the North Africa regions to share their personal journeys, their successes, their challenges, and thoughts about the future of Nashville for their communities. This program is really about storytelling by members of our growing Nashville community, which will offer all of us a window into their lives and maybe some understanding of what members of minority communities encountered in their past to become integrated members of this great community that we call Nashville, Tennessee. Before we follow our standard template, we have some welcoming remarks from our Chancellor, the 9th Chancellor, Chancellor Daniel Diermeyer. He wasn't able to be here, but he taped a lovely piece here, so let's play that tape.
On behalf of Vanderbilt University, in collaboration with Nashville Public Library, welcome to And Now, the history of Nashville's minority communities. Tonight is our final destination on a 2-year journey that has taken us across many generations and all around the world. We've heard many stories, long remembered, long forgotten, and some never told before, of struggle, strength, innovation, resilience, and joy. Stories as varied as the human experience and numerous as its voices. Public servants and faith leaders, professors and educators, artists, elders, and business builders. These are the stories and voices of our city. And they not only inform our past, but illuminate our present. And they have the power to guide our future as Nashville continues to grow and as we continue to work together to define its evolving place in the world and to improve the lives of all who call it home. Vanderbilt is proud to be part of this process, which is part of our commitment to lifelong learning, free expression, and civil discourse. This is a commitment that we are proud to share with Nashville Public Library, and we're grateful to our partners for their outstanding work. Tonight, our series is proud to welcome the stories of North Africa, including those of Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, and Sudan. The members of these communities, as scholars and citizens from wide-ranging backgrounds and roles, have shaped the lives of our university and our city in countless ways, some of which we will learn about tonight. But the work of the Then and Now series does not end here. The conversations that began in this room have already taken root, sparking new connections and networks that will continue to grow, building new partnerships and new possibilities for positive impact throughout our city. My gratitude goes out to our speakers tonight and to all those who have joined us throughout this series. Your voices have made it all possible, and you have helped to keep these vital stories alive. And to Dr. André Churchwell, whose vision has guided us from the start, thank you. And to all of you present tonight, thank you for joining us and for continuing the discussions to come.
Thanks to our Chancellor for those warm words. And I had this set to play on my DVD. His last comment about me, that's going to be looping all night, just so you know. Following our standard template, we'll have Sam Doby, Assistant Professor of History and the D. Family Dean's Faculty Fellow in Studies of Middle East at Vanderbilt University, who will offer a brief history of North Africa, followed by Iman Osama Balul, who's Sheikh Osama to me, who's the resident scholar of the Islamic Center of Nashville, who will offer his own personal perspectives of that region and its stories. Once completed with history sharing, we will have leaders from the community share their biographies, their personal histories, their journeys. Those leaders are Anas Manif, Interim Chair and Assistant Professor of Finance, Department of Economics at College of Business, Tennessee State University. Zohar El-Amalaki, Computer Business Owner, who's joined us tonight. The Hamdens, Ashraf Hamden, neonatologist of the Pediatrics Medical Group, and Sally Hamden, who's a chemical engineer here in Nashville. I know the Hamdens personally because Said, their son, was a Vanderbilt med student who I mentored for his time here, and he looks like he took my mentoring and has done well, it sounds like. Good, good. Ahmed Amar will be talking with us tonight. He's an accountant here in Nashville. Zarima Zarir, who's Director of Data Analytics and AI. And lastly, we brought back a special guest, James Cool McCoyak. James is from South Sudan. Oh, wow, James has a following here. He's an artist and activist. Before we start the program, I'd like my co-host, Samara Lee, Research Professor of Political Science and Law at Vanderbilt University, and co-chair of the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and American Democracy, and founder and CEO of Millions of Conversations, to offer some welcome remarks. I don't know how Samar finds time to do all that work, but she is here with us tonight. So Samar, thank you.
Well, I follow your mentorship advice. So I don't know how you do it all. And I was able to talk about the award that you received in DC last time. And today is another special day. In that, if I'm not mistaken, they hung your portrait in Light Hall in the Vanderbilt Medical School, where it will be memorialized, hopefully, for centuries to come. Very well deserved. Again, extraordinary leader here and extraordinary leadership on this stage. As I was listening to everybody's day jobs, I was thinking about the diversity of discipline and also the commitment to excellence that really is showing up in your daily activities that's contributing to the growth here of Nashville, and we are growing together. And if we can show the map as well that's on our flyer, because I also want to say that first slide, please. As we are growing together, we are learning together. And if you'll recall in our first part of this season of the series back in December, I talked about my own ignorance and how I learn from what I don't know, and I welcome people to correct me and to expose me to your truth and also facts. And I often say the difference between facts and truth is simply this: truth is your experience with the facts. So I learned, and I think I'd say we both learned, we were corrected by, we were using the wrong map of Morocco. And so in our first flyer, if you go back and look at the flyer that we posted, I want to say it was maybe back in February, it was before the snowstorm of March, we had posted the wrong map of Morocco. Here we are, Vanderbilt University, and we didn't get it right. And so thankfully, a member of the Moroccan community here, who's here, emailed us and corrected our mistake and explained to us. And we were so thankful for that, and we corrected it. But if he hadn't brought it to our attention, we would not have known, and we would have continued on with our fake news, I guess, is what we call it. Our peddling and misinformation. So thank you. And I just wanted to highlight that because that's an example of us learning together. And if we hadn't done this series, we wouldn't have known that. And we had this long conversation actually today, Dr. Churchwell and myself, of where we were talking about why the map has changed and when it changed and how Western Sahara was now included and et cetera. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about all of that together tonight. And I just also, I've highlighted this before and I just wanted to highlight it again. And that is, as I think and reflect about the contributions that these different parts of the Middle East and Africa have had on Nashville, it's really interesting for me to see how they are helping to shape Nashville, how we are helping to shape each other, and also how those areas and those home areas of where everyone on the stage has originated from are also continuing to grow, and how they're also continuing to change. I don't know if you saw me having a conversation briefly with Sheikh Osama, who's absolutely brilliant, and I learned from every single time I have a conversation with him. And we were talking about the changes that are happening in the region and in the Middle East as we speak and as we talk. And so if I can just say this, having had the privilege to visit many of these places, including Morocco and including Tunisia and also including Egypt, if you get a chance to go in your lifetime, please, please do. And finally, thank you to all of you. If you can give each of you a round of applause. Because I see many familiar faces, and I feel that through this series, thanks to Vanderbilt, thanks to our partners, thanks to the Nashville Public Library, we've been in community together, and I felt that. And I really do hope that this is not the end of our conversation, but this is the beginning. Thank you.
Thanks, Samar. That's great. Now we're going to have Sam Doby, who's assistant professor of history at Vanderbilt, share the history of the region. Sam is not here today. He is in Turkey. So he sent a video clip. There's a little time delay, so there'll be a little time delay between the audio and his video, probably from whence it came. But when we actually create the final YouTube video that you'll see on the side of the public library, it'll all be synced. So please enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Dolby. I'm so sorry that I can't be there with you all tonight. I'm away in Turkey doing research. I spoke with some of you in January at the last event we did, which was really lovely, and so I regret that I can't be there. I wanted to begin by thanking Dr. Churchwell, and Marla Robertson, and so many community members for making this event possible. Now, as some of you who came way back in January to our event on the Gulf in Kurdistan remember, I showed a lot of maps. We'll look at some other maps today, and I'll try to give a very brief historical and geographical background to what some of the other panelists and community members will share too about their personal stories as we discuss the vibrant communities from North Africa that we have in Nashville today. And I want to say that it's a special honor to speak as part of this event, even via pre-recorded video, because I've spent a little bit of time in North Africa in the course of studying Arabic for many years, both in Egypt and in Morocco. When I was 20, I went to Cairo to study abroad for a semester. I was so excited. At that point, I had been studying very formal Arabic for several years at my university, and I had this textbook with CDs that came alongside it. Remember CDs? I would repeat the sounds of Arabic letters to myself for hours while listening to these CDs, and I believe this made my roommate at the time very concerned for my sanity. And so you can understand that going to Egypt was very exciting because it meant that I no longer had to be repeating these sounds to myself and concerning my roommate. So very excited. And I remember on the very first day of class in Cairo, I walked from where I was living to the university that I was studying at. But before I reached the university, I had a dilemma. What felt like 10 lanes of traffic were speeding by in front of me, honking. And the university was just on the other side of that traffic. There was a moment, I must admit, where I thought about quitting. Just going back to the United States, going back to those Arabic language CDs, going back to that concerned roommate. And I must have had this look of disappointment on my face. And at that point, an older man noticed and motioned to me. And he did this, it's a very useful hand gesture. He went like this to me. And it means sort of wait, calm down. And then he motioned for me to follow him as he expertly navigated these 10 lanes of traffic. I thanked him, went to class. So in his honor, and the honor of so many people who helped me figure out how to navigate confusing situations, whether related to traffic or verb conjugations, I'll try to orient us a little bit in terms of longer history of this region, but also disorient us, perhaps, in suggesting some ways that North Africa and the Americas have long connections. If you'll excuse me while I share the screen so you can look at some of these maps. In what might be a predictable move, I'll suggest we should begin with some maps. And I want to start with this one from the 11th century, so the 1000s, which was made based on the geography of a scholar by the name of Ibn Hawqal. Now, I want you to look at it, and especially if you don't read Arabic or if the Arabic is too small for you to read, I'd like you to guess what you think those shapes that you see mean. As with the map I showed in January, the goal of this one is to disorient us a little bit. But not just to disorient, but also to think about what kinds of relationships between places and people we might see if we look at things at a slightly different angle, one where a clear divide between Europe and the Middle East or Europe and North Africa isn't taken for granted. With this map, at least from the way I'm looking at it, I hope this is reflected in the way this image is showing to you. With this map, the top is south, the right is west, and the bottom is north, and the left is east. So a little different than the kind of cartography that we're used to. This blue strip that is arcing over to the left in the center of the map is the Nile. In the lower left-hand corner, we have Iran and Iraq, and even China, all the way in the east, which is to say in the left. In the lower right-hand corner, we have Europe, and in the upper right-hand corner, we have Egypt and the Maghreb. And the term Maghreb means place where the sun sets. You'll commonly hear this term used to describe North Africa. Each of these countries we're discussing tonight, Sudan, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, has its own unique history and culture. But some commonalities we can point to are, first of all, the Arabic language, although, of course, there are big differences in dialects spoken between these places. And also, in many countries, we also have other languages, perhaps most notably Tamazight in Morocco and Algeria and elsewhere. Historically, all of these countries have boasted religiously diverse communities. Today, the populations of these places are largely Muslim, though of course there's a broad range of how people understand that faith, much like in the United States, how there are many different interpretations of faith. Egypt too is largely Muslim, though it also is noteworthy for its Coptic Christian community. And of course we have a strong Coptic community in Middle Tennessee as well. Historically, all of these places had Jewish communities, particularly Morocco and Egypt. Another point that brings many of these places together is the Mediterranean, which was long a space of connection, bringing together Europe and North Africa. One way we can see these connections is actually if we look beyond that map from Ibn Hawqal to the Americas. And so this map is actually a map of Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City. When conquistadors like Cortez came to what's now Mexico, they thought they saw something familiar. They said they saw mosques, in Spanish mezquitas. And they knew about mosques most obviously because Spain for 7 centuries had been a Muslim society. And we still see traces of that in architecture in places like Granada. They also knew what mosques were because of the long history of interaction with North Africa. But the structures that they saw in what's now Mexico were not actually mosques, of course, but they were confusing mosques for Aztec temples. Nevertheless, in making this mistake, we can get a glimpse of the way that Spain and North Africa were long linked. And there are more examples of this in relation to the Americas. If you go to New Mexico today, you will hear of irrigation works referred to as acequia, which is a term in Spanish derived in Arabic from asakia, referring to a kind of irrigation structure or water wheel. And the reason why we have these connections is that long history of relations between Spain and Muslim culture and the Arabic language. Another way we can disorient ourselves with maps is removing the borders of nation states from them. Here's a map of North Africa and the Mediterranean without any borders or place names. What can you recognize? We might notice the sandy expanses of the Sahara Desert. This is significant to thinking about the countries of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and Sudan, especially as we move further south from the Mediterranean. But we also shouldn't overstate the divide with the rest of Africa, politically and socially. We should also note what might seem an obvious point. The North African coast is very close to Europe. And indeed, in the 19th and early 20th century, all of these places had different experiences of colonialism and of liberation from colonialism, with the British in Egypt and Sudan, the Italians in Libya, the French in Algeria, with a particularly intense settler colonial project, as well as in Tunisia and Morocco, and also the Spanish in parts of Morocco. These countries also have substantial diasporic communities today all across Europe. Now, if we look closer to the coast, we'll see some green. And if you go to these places, you will see many trees and crops that you might be familiar with from elsewhere in the Mediterranean. Olives, figs, grapes, pomegranates, citrus. These might seem like minor details, but they actually open up whole worlds related to economics, social relations, labor politics. In fact, if we follow the economic connections of some of these commodities grown in these places, we can further see ways that the fates of North Africa and the United States were linked. In fact, one of the most important events in the history of Egypt was the American Civil War. Why? Because there was a blockade of Confederate cotton during the war. It meant that many people around the world could make money by growing that plant. So everywhere from Egypt to India, people tried to take advantage of this possibility. And particularly in the Nile Delta, which with its rich soil, there was a huge expansion of cotton cultivation. And that cotton was then sent around the world, to the mills of Manchester, even to Massachusetts, as we can see in this advertisement for Egyptian cloth. By the late 19th century, nearly 90% of Egypt's export revenues came from cotton. In Algeria, especially in the early 20th century, there was an attempt to grow oranges on a large scale. And French colonial officials looked to California for expertise and models. You can see one map here where they are representing this relationship by placing Algeria and California together in line with their shared latitudes and even environmental features, mountains beside the sea. By the early 1960s, people in France ate nearly 14 kilograms of oranges a year, and 90% came from Algeria. So here are a few perhaps unexpected ways that the Americas and North Africa are linked historically. They're linked in terms of the long-term interactions between the Arab world and Europe, such that Aztec temples seemed like mosques to the conquistadors, and Arabic words for water infrastructure are still used in places like New Mexico today. They're also linked in terms of economics, often in unequal terms. If we think of the way cotton emerged in Egypt in the midst of the American Civil War and became a key export, or if we think about the way that California functioned as a model for Algerian orange cultivation for supplying France. But of course, some of the most profound connections between North Africa and the United States and Nashville are from the people who have made that journey through hard work, education, and taking care of their families and their community, of which we will hear much more from community members later this evening. Thank you for letting me join you remotely, and I hope the rest of the evening is as nice as our previous events. Take care.
Appreciate Sam putting that together. It really is a great way to tee up the next section of our program, where we bring up now Sheikh Osama, the resident scholar at the Islamic Center, to share some of his wise perspectives of these communities and their interactions here in Nashville. Sheikh Osama.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I really appreciate the effort. And it's always good to learn about each other. I have to mention in the beginning that I really struggle a little bit with the concept of minority in Middle Tennessee. Which one really is a minority? And regardless of your color, the color of the skin, or the background, all of us really came from Adam and Eve, so all of us really belong to the same family. And sometimes when we refer to certain part of the community as a minority, we don't realize that, you know what, it's more than that. We had a meeting in Vanderbilt, and all of them were females, and I was the minority. I was the only one. And I remember being in Egypt a little bit ago, and someone stopped me. It happened that she was a lady from America. She was a minority in Egypt. She felt very good that someone came from America might be able to help her a little bit. So I think we should realize that there is no minority and the majority. We just have a human being. And I think we end up doing really good when we choose to speak with each other, not really about each other. The historian will give you their perspective about different country and different community. As an imam within the Islamic Center, I experience people from different perspective. I have people come to Middle Tennessee, and many of them will reach out to the Islamic Center, any of them. And we receive those people. They came to Middle Tennessee for different reasons. They did not really come as a Moroccan or Algerian or Libyan. They came for different mission. Many of them came for education, some of them came for work, and some of them because of a social commitment. But I noticed that all of them have a genuine interest about being part of the new community. And many will go through wonderful experience, and some go through a troubling and challenging one. And some of them end up trying to change their name to sound more American, to change their culture, to fit in. And some struggle with their identity. Because while the library, Vanderbilt, and a million of conversation are welcoming everyone today, not everyone does. The term "go back home" is a sentence. Some people really hear it more often than anyone can wish for. And some might look like coming from Latin America because of the color of their skin, and some of them can have a lighter or darker skin, and you end up having some individual trying to fit in with an acceptable category within the country. The North African Muslim community in Middle Tennessee are reasonable size. They are Muslims and the Christians. I was born in Egypt. The majority of Egyptians in Middle Tennessee are Christians. They are not Muslims. And it's a big number of people, roughly around 100,000. They have more than 14 churches. And they have a significant, really, participation within the country. I remember in Middle Tennessee State, this is more than 15 years ago, when Libya sent a student to MTSU. And suddenly we started having Libyan come in as a student. And the people were excited in the department. And I remember speaking with one of the professors and said, "Why are you guys so excited?" He said, "Because without them we cannot survive." I remember with the exchange program between US and Saudi Arabia, when we had at one point 1,000 students. And the vice president told me this, said, "We are alive because of them." Do you know how much each one of them contribute financially to our university? When we speak about North African, we are speaking about people that have different professionals. This is a very realistic view. But you know what? Things can be very bad. I remember with the experience in Murfreesboro, when certain group within the community hold a very aggressive and a negative view toward the Muslims in Middle Tennessee, one of them ended up to be a patient. And the doctor supposed to treat him was a Muslim. And you know what? It was a dilemma, to say the least, because the family said, "We cannot trust this man with our father. And well, if I will not treat your father, he will die." End up treating him. And they did not see him as someone coming from North Africa or any other region. They realized later on that he was just a good doctor. And we should not stereotype anyone. The relationship between North African countries is quite unique. I came from Egypt. In Egypt, we have a really good institution, religious one. One of the great imam of Al-Azhar was from Tunisia, Al-Khadr Hussein. And the interaction between him and the scholars was phenomenal. Ibn Khaldun was born in Tunisia and further west, and the best away actually in Cairo. The culture of the Sudanese people is quite unique. Sometimes we feel like Egypt and Sudan is really one country because of the Nile, and we have many similarity, but very kind and warm people and have their own culture. They come to the Islamic Center, and one of the things I enjoy when interacting with our congregation, that I enjoy even different outfit. When you have people from Morocco coming with their own outfit, when an Algerian family come with their unique accent and how they greet each other, and we learn how to greet each other using each dialogue. Very rich. I often ask, what can we be ourselves today without the contribution of those countries. And I am really grateful for America, because America gave me access to all of those countries. While I did read about them growing up in Egypt, I became a member of their families when I moved to Middle Tennessee. We have a reasonable number of people from North Africa, big number Egyptian, really, if I want to include all of the Egyptian, and rightly so. And we have a good business Sudanese community. We have a community from Libya. Their sizes can be modest, but has its own unique, really, contribution to the Muslim community. And we have some Algerian, we have some Moroccan and some Tunisian, and very rich. Can America be as rich as America is culturally without the contribution of each country? I don't think it can. America is not really unique because of the size of its economy or the power of its army, in my view at least. I think America is very unique because of its diversity and stand for liberty. And we lose a lot as a country. We lose a lot as a country when we choose to isolate others. I think we refer often to ourselves as, I guess, Muslim, Egyptian, American, and we end up struggling, by the way. I miss Egypt while here, and when I go to Egypt, I miss America. And we have this struggle, and it is not me. It is not me. It is each one of us. The story of the Muslim community in Middle Tennessee partially is the story of America. People came from everywhere, and they call it home, and they contribute culturally. If you are from Texas, my wife from Texas, and you feel like proud of the way you make a steak, I want you to eat the food of North African. And Zuhair can speak with you in his 5 minutes about al-harira soup Moroccan make. And I am sure Algerian will have their own dish, and the Sudanese have their own dish. Very rich, very special, very unique. People choose to isolate themselves. I really feel sorry for them because they are missing a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheikh Osama, sharing that perspective that you have. Appreciate that very much. We're going to move now to the second half of our program, where we have community leaders will come to the podium to offer their bios and journeys from their countries to Nashville. And we're going to start with Anis Manif. He's interim chair and assistant professor of finance, Department of Economics and Finance, College of Business at Tennessee State University. Anis.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Churchwell, for this outstanding program. So when Dr. Churchwell asked me to speak on behalf of Tunisia, I got so excited, and it's always, I don't miss any opportunity to kind of promote Tunisia and talk about the culture, talk about where I come from, and so on. But the good news, he didn't give us a framework on what to say and what to do. He only told us you have 5 minutes. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Tunisia, the relationship of Tunisia and the US, a little bit about the culture, then I will talk a little bit about my story here in the US. So that's how the conversation or the story going to go. So first of all, it's an honor to be with you here today with distinguished speakers from North Africa, the Vanderbilt University for this outstanding program, Dr. Churchwell, my dear friend Marla, Miss Rebecca, and the Public Library. Thank you for organizing an important program that gives voice to immigrants' story, to share our input and share with you our story, but also get the opportunity to get feedback from the audience and hear about what you think about our countries or home countries, because now the US is our country. As we explore the journey that brought many of us here to Tennessee, I'm so proud to share mine from Tunisia. A very small country in size, about 12 million people, but expensive in history. Tunisia's story spans over 3,000 years. Very rich culture, from the Phoenicians who founded Carthage to Roman legacies, Arab scholars, the Ottoman Empire, and architecture. Tunisia has always been a land where civilization converge. It is where the desert meets the Mediterranean beautiful sea. It's located at the highest point of northern Africa with a very beautiful coasts, but also beautiful deserts. So it's a nice mixture of it's just to give you a perspective, it is about the size of Georgia, 164 kilometers square. When I first came here, I tell people I'm going to Chicago, how long it takes you, about 8-10 hours. People, oh, it's too much from Tunisia. So the distance changes. Our perspective as we move to a bigger country changes. Tunisia, you can go from up the northern part to the last point in Tunisia that border Libya in 9 hours at the most. Side to side, west to east, 6 hours. That's the whole Tunisia with 12 million people. So, a little bit about the history between Tunisia and the US. The relationship between Tunisia and the US date far back since 1797, where the first treaty of peace was signed between Tunisia and the US. Then in 1800, the US decided to establish its first consulate in Tunisia, in Tunis. And then once Tunisia was a French colony, when it got its independence from France in 1956, the US was the first international power to recognize its independence. So that really friendship strengthened the relationship between Tunisia and the US. Fast forward, many of you are familiar with the Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia. They call it the Spring Revolution. It started in Tunisia in 2011. And I'm very proud to say that Tunisia, the only Arab country that had a very peaceful transition in power during that revolution. We had two presidents since the independence. The first president declared himself president for life. Then he was ousted by the former president, who was also ousted in 1987. And he declared himself president for life. He was 24 years. Every time he changed the constitution, and he was allowing himself to be a president. So, so in 2011, the people went out to the street and started rioting. And that revolution could not have happened peacefully without the quiet but powerful intervention of the US. How did that happen? The US Embassy called every telecommunication company in Tunisia and said, open the Wi-Fi, give every Tunisian access to free Wi-Fi, free communication, text message, call, let them communicate. And that's how they started knowing what's happening, depending on where they are in Tunisia, whether north or south. Because the system, telecommunication system in Tunisia, I think in most countries in North Africa, you pay by the minute. Every call, every text, you pay for it by the minute. So it's quite expensive for you to follow what's happening. And with that, within 3 days, the president left the country. The whole revolution succeeded. Not a bullet was fired. No blood was shedded. And that tells you how much the influence and the input of the US relationship. So that's kind of a good introduction about where Tunisia and the relationship between both countries. That transition allowed Tunisia in 2015 and the Democratic Party that helped the transition to receive the Nobel Prize of Peace in 2015. That's a big deal for a tiny country to receive the Nobel Prize. That was in 2015. So let's talk a little bit beyond treaties and milestones. Tunisia lives in the imagination of many Americans without them knowing, including some of you here in the audience. How many of you are familiar with the Star Wars movie? Okay, very good. So when Star Wars was first showed us the planet Tatooine. Those desert scenes were filmed in Tunisia, were filmed in the city, actual city, it's called Tatooine. Those houses and the design, they are actual houses. So it's just so you know you are very close to Tunisia, even though you don't know that. The English Patient movie, Indiana Jones, and many other films were filmed in Tunisia. Another fact, in the US, there are 24 towns named Carthage. Those are named after the original Carthage created by the Phoenicians in Tunisia. We have Carthage, Tennessee, just a few miles away from here. So this is a little bit of comparison. Now I'm going to move a little bit forward with my personal journey. As I mentioned, my journey began in that same Tunisia that I was talking to you about, a place of resilience, education, and deep family value. About 75% of the Tunisian population have a college degree. 85 of them decide to go for a master's degree. The regular Tunisians speak 2 languages. I speak 3 languages. I'm illiterate compared to most of them. Now the kids speak 5 to 7 languages. So by the age of 4, you speak French and Arabic. By the age of 12, you speak another language. By the age of 15, you have to pick a 3rd, 4th language. And that's in school, you have to study that. And then you have the opportunity to practice that during the summer where all the tourists come, so you have to practice that language. So when I first considered coming to the US, I researched top business school. I wanted to continue my graduate education here in the US, and Vanderbilt came up on the top business schools. Back in the days, there was no internet, at least in Tunisia. I have to kind of find the school, send them a mail, say, hey, I need this. They will send you the package. You fill out the package, you send that. They will send you an email back or a mail back, say you have been accepted or rejected. So I was looking where to go. I have no clue where to go, even though I visited the US prior to that, but I didn't know where to go in terms of education-wise. So Vanderbilt came up, and luckily I was accepted for business school. And then when I went to the US Embassy to get my visa, you have to go for an interview. The lady at the window, it still feels like yesterday. She asked me, why Nashville, why Tennessee? And I was very naive at that time. I said, I'm going to study business in Nashville. And she asked me again, why Nashville, Tennessee? I said, to study business. She said, you're going to end up speaking like them. And I was so naive. I said, what do you mean? Nashville, Tennessee, they speak a different language? They don't speak English? So let's just say I learned a little bit of my English and my Southern English, even though I tried so hard to get rid of my Tunisian accent, but I could not. So arriving here was more than just a change of geography. It was transformation of identity. The early days were filled with challenges: language, culture, weather, the allergy capital. I never had a problem with allergies. I couldn't open my eyes. I was crying all the time. But what helped me most stay grounded was the warmth and openness of this community. What surprised me most was not the difference, but the familiarity. It's like we are scared coming to completely different, I would call it adventure. So Tennessee, like Tunisia, value community. We both love music, whether it's Malouf, one of the original type of music in Tunisia, or Memphis blues. We honor our ancestors, and we tell stories, both here and in Tunisia, often around tables, sharing good food, good memories, whether it's couscous. If you have not tried couscous, I encourage you, or cornbread, hot chicken, or harissa, baklava, or biscuits. That brings me to my soulmate, Leslie, here. Her family welcomed me, not as a stranger, but as a son. Over time, our culture blended beautifully, not during major events, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, Ramadan, Eid, Tunisian salad and lamb or goat are part of the main dish. It's always there. The kids ask for it, cousins ask for it. Now they cook it at home. They ask for the recipe, and that's how they make it. And that's how that melting pot, Dr. Churchwell and Samar was talking about the Sheikh. So, talking about meeting, and that's really, I'm sure it's not only my experience. Any person who came from other country felt that warmth, that welcoming from the community here in Nashville. I was surprised the first time I met the family. They made sure that everything is labeled and a special dish for me with no pork on it. And that was very touching, like the thoughtfulness of people here to say, hey, let's want to make sure that we respect those values and welcome that person and make sure that he is feeling that he is at home. Thousands of miles away, I still felt like I'm at home. That's love in action. And that's not my personal story. Again, I'm assuming everybody will talk about that love of the community and the welcoming of the community. Daily gestures in inclusions and respects. That's really what touched me here in Nashville, Tennessee, because I witnessed going up north. It's slightly different, but in Nashville, it's unique. So today, a little bit about me. I serve as Dr. Churchwell. I'm an educator at Tennessee State University, and I have been around there for a little bit over 20 years. Mentoring students from all walks of life, immigrant, first-generation college students, dreamers, sometimes lost students, they don't know where they are. But my goal is that I focus and try to be the kind of mentor I once needed, because nobody can make it where they are going by themselves. We always need a help. We need a hand. So as immigrant, we carry a unique responsibility, at least in my perspective. We carry not only the responsibility of our home country, but also to serve as ambassador for the country we stand in and for the community that welcomes us. So I think the Sheikh said, when I go to Tunisia, I feel homesick. I tell Leslie, hey, I feel like I'm homesick. When can I come back? And then when I come here, I say, I also want to go back to visit Tunisia. It's like that dilemma or that trying to figure out what is our real home. But I'm glad that we had that opportunity to experience both homes. I think that experience and that opportunity for us as immigrants help us serve as stewards of the community that welcomes us, but also our own home, and then can help enrich our new homes with culture and perspective. But we must, in my opinion, we must never impose our customs on the community and the city that welcomed you. Instead, we should respect and preserve the traditions, the rules, and the spirit of the place like Tennessee and Nashville. And on a lighter note, perhaps, I was destined to end up here because both Tunisia and Tennessee are proudly represented by the same initial. Tennessee is TN, Tunisia is TN. So my story is one among many, but together they form a mosaic of who we are and who we are becoming. Heritage isn't just about where we are from, it is about what we carry forward. Thank you for letting me share my story. I want to say two things. I know I might have exceeded my time, but I would like to offer all of you an invitation to Tunisia if you have not been there. It's a very beautiful country, and it's worth visiting. The other thing is, in June 8th, a Tunisian team is coming to play here in Nashville, soccer. If you have heard the National World Cup for clubs, Tunisia is represented by a club. They will be playing in Nashville on June the 8th, and they will be playing in Philadelphia. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Speak closer to the mic, I've been told by Rebecca. Okay, I think that they've got that one. Perfect. Next, our speaker, Zohair. Please come on up and share your story, too. Thank you. Okay. Pull that thing down a little bit.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Churchwell, for giving us the opportunity to talk about our countries and share our journeys in Nashville. Thank you for Nashville Public Library for organizing and hosting this event and the others before. As a Moroccan, I'm proud of my heritage as much as I'm proud of being American. As the saying goes, you can take the man out of the village, but you cannot take the village of the man. Moving from my home country to United States was one of the most difficult defining experiences of my life. It wasn't just a difficult journey, a physical journey around the border. It was a profound transformation shaped by hope, uncertainty, and determination to succeed. It was an emotional passage filled with fear of leaving behind 30 years of memories, culture, food, family, and friends. At the same time, there was a hope of a new life, the chance to integrate a new society, an opportunity to build a better future. The immigration system process is long and overwhelming and full of unknown, but through the journey, I discovered resilience that I did not have. Every challenge taught me something new and shaped me into the person I am today. And so began the story of my journey, what I faced, what I learned, and how I found my place in a new land, new life, new culture. I met new people and made new friends. Of course, no one can replace the family behind, my parents, my brothers and sister, but life gave me the gift of friends. When you leave family, you have no choice but open your heart to new connections. Those friends become your support system, helping to adapt and grow. Sheikh Osama told me one day, your body is in Nashville, but your heart is in Morocco. Morocco is one of the kingdoms that has a long story with current monarchy dating back several centuries. The Alawite dynasty, which is current in the power, has been ruling since the 17th century. Geographically, Morocco is located in north of Africa, separate from Spain with 9 miles. Separated by Gibraltar. This location gives Morocco a unique position as a bridge between Europe and Africa. Morocco was the first country to recognize the United States independence in 1777. This recognition was formalized through the Treaty of Peace and Friendship signed in 1786. Morocco's support was significantly for the American Navy as to provide a passage through the Gibraltar to Suez Canal and other part of the world. It's an interesting part of shared history between the two nations, a relationship that continues till today. I was born in 1966 in Rabat, in Morocco, and grew up in a modest, fulfilling family. After graduating from high school, I earned a degree in electronics in 1989. My professional journey began first in Morocco with the first company manufacturing IBM compatible computers. At that time, the fastest model produced was an 8025 at 25 megahertz, not a gigahertz. Later, later on, I worked with an Apple reseller for 4 years as a service manager, gaining a valuable experience, getting a few Apple certification in France of the word personal computing. Then in 1994, I took a major forward step for co-founding with my own Apple repair center with a business software engineer partner in Rabat. In 1999, I met my wife at the American school where she worked while studying about Muslim women in Morocco. We become friends. She comes back. In 2001, we got married. A year after our wedding, we decided to visit the family in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee for Christmas. I applied for a visa, but it was denied, not just once, but twice. Eventually, the U.S. consulate informed us that the only way I could visit by applying for an immigration visa, simply because my wife was American. It did not make much sense to us, but we did it. At that point, I was not interested in moving to Nashville permanently. I was focused on growing my business in Rabat. Apple computers were a big deal at that time, especially in marketing, advertising, newspaper, and magazines, many of which were my primary customers. Life was busy and stable. My wife had secured teaching position at the American school, and we were happy where we were. Then 2 years later, we made a new decision to move to Nashville temporarily so my wife can pursue her master's degree in social work. We applied for immigration visa, which was approved, with the condition of staying 6 months in Nashville. In 2003, we moved to Nashville, making the true beginning of my journey. Arriving with no background in English, my first major challenge was learning the language. To get a job, I needed a driver's license, but the test was only available in English, Spanish, Korean, and Vietnamese. There was no option for Arabic or French, despite that the majority of immigrants were Somali, Kurdish, Arab, followed by the large community, South American community. With no other choice, I took the test with using dictionary. I got mine, but that's second turn. Then comes the second challenge, finding a job. Of course, all the employment were in English. My first attempt was an IT at Dell, computer manufacturer, given my background. But surprisingly, I failed due to the language barrier. Next, I took a test at FedEx, which involved simple basic questions. The funny part was at the end of the test, a 40-pound bag of sand in the corner that I had to lift while being monitored in the corner with a camera to see my strength. Luckily, I failed that test. Otherwise, I may be still driving FedEx truck. Nothing wrong with that, but it was not what I want coming from being in charge of my own business in Morocco. Then I applied for a job at McAthorley, the only Apple reseller in Nashville, Tennessee, at that time. However, when they realized that my English was weak, they told me, "We'll call you later." Determined I retake the Dell test. This time, my wife took the test before me, memorized the answers, and helped me to prepare. I passed the Dell and worked 1 day for Dell. And then McAthorley called me back. I was thrilled to return to Apple World. With 9 years of experience in Apple product, I was productive from day one, despite barely speaking English. One day, I overheard a coworker saying, "How can he fix computers if he does not speak English?" In my mind, I said, "Computer does not talk. All I have to do is to replace the faulty part with a good one and push the power button." Honestly, I had a great time working there. Because I was a good technician, I earned some respect. My coworkers taught me, laugh at me sometimes and laugh with me sometimes. I answered the phone, especially when I answered the phone or leave a message with my accent. I remember one day a customer called and said, "Somebody called me from China saying my computer is ready." A couple years later, I moved from technician to lead technician, eventually to service manager. As my English improved a little bit, I took more responsibility overseeing service quality and training technicians with no prior experience of how to fix computers. In return, they taught me English, not just proper word, but slang, jokes, songs, and the unique culture of South Nashville. One of the funniest moments happened when I started learning their jokes. They used to say, "I got your back, dog." One day, I tried to fit in and sound cool. I attempt to repeat it, and I end up saying, "I got your dog back." Everyone laughed at me. I knew I screwed something up. Of course, nothing lasts forever. In 2012, my boss decided to sell the business to another company called Simply Mac. I was one of the first employees to be laid off because of my salary. Right after going through a divorce with a huge mortgage and no income with 3 kids, it was a tough time. But God had a better plan for me, even though I couldn't see the right way. Thankfully, I had good friends, strong support from community, something that is especially important for immigrants as we don't have a family to rely on. After a few months of searching for another job in the middle of the 2012 economic crisis, I applied at Vanderbilt University as an IT. At that time, they fired 300 employees. I couldn't get the job. Then I started having offers from my friends, from my communities. And a friend from Palestine, Hisham, a car dealer, offered me a job. He said, or anything I needed, telling me, my business is open to you, whatever you want to do. His generosity means the word for me. Then a friend, Adil from Sudan, who's here, generously offered me space. When my business is today. To start my business, he shut down his. I asked him, what's the interest you want from a business? He said, pay your bills and feed your kids. A friend like that are rare, and I will be forever grateful for him. When I started my business, it was very slow, and at the end of the month, to him, not to me. When I started my business, it was very slow, and at the end of the month, a friend from Somalia, Abdul Ghani, used to come with his checkbook, try to pay my rent. I was and still lucky to have friends like those. Finally, if I have advice for everyone, is to learn English first and then have a good friends. And always remember that God has a plan for us, better than we think. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Wow, resilience, right? To the nth power. Next speaker is Ashraf Hamdan.
So Dr. Churchwell told us the Hamdans has 5 minutes. So you and Sally can split, everyone speak 2.5 minutes, which we felt that's so short we cannot do 26 years of history. So we fought. And of course you won, that's why I'm presenting. So my family is truly honored to be here, and we are thrilled to share our story. I would say we are descendant of the pharaohs, Egyptian, Alexandrian, and Arab, Middle Eastern, and North African. These are some of the identities I had originally claimed. But now, after 26 years, I've added 2, maybe 3. American, Nashvilleian, and for me, I would say Southern. I love eating pimento cheese sandwiches. I'm a board-certified neonatologist with 26 years of service to the Nashville community, married to a beautiful wife who is a mother, teacher, community leader, and a volunteer queen, with 3 children, an ophthalmologist, an entrepreneur and psychologist, and soon-to-be collegiate tennis athlete. So did the sacrifice of leaving my home country, our family and friends pay off? Was that 26-year journey worthwhile? Of course, without a doubt. So over the years as a father, from one bedtime story to another and one car time story to another, my children have come to know me as a storyteller. So I would love to share our story with you chapter by chapter. So chapter 1, the beginning. So it all started in 1984 when I graduated from medical school, Alexandria, Egypt, and went on to complete my pediatrics and neonatology training. By 1992, I was a young faculty at the university, and shortly after, I met my beautiful wife, Sally. and the story was off to a good start. Certainly, Sally is not a common Egyptian name, but maybe was a good fit for our journey. So chapter 2, our first adventure. So I was offered an opportunity to broaden my training with a PhD in the United Kingdom. And as I decided to repeat my training in pediatrics and neonatology to enable a career in the UK, Sally at the same time was completing her master's in chemical engineering while also raising our firstborn child in a foreign country, unfamiliar culture, with new challenges away from family and friends. And it was a very tough time. She called her mother every day crying. Chapter 3, from the Beatles to country music. As we began to settle in our new home in Liverpool, becoming a Scouser, supporting Liverpool Football Club, and loving the Beatles, another opportunity came up, training at Vanderbilt University under Dr. Stallman, the mother of neonatology. Of course, we cannot say no. Initially intended to be a brief endeavor, we found ourselves falling for the charm of Nashville and Tennessee. I, for the third time, had to repeat my pediatric training and fellowship training. On the bright side, and looking at the glass half full, I might be the most trained neonatologist in the United States. Chapter 4, what Sally chose to be. With my many exams, frequent on-calls, and our growing family, 2 young boys and a daughter on the way, Sally had to make sacrifices. She stepped away from her career as an engineer and a PhD student at Vanderbilt to dedicate her time to raising our kids, teaching them Arabic and Islam. Along the way, she volunteered at our children's school, became a leader within the Nashville Muslim community, a teacher and a founder of several Sunday schools. Turns out that Sally undoubtedly was the glue and binding to our story and the Muslim community within the city. Chapter 5, the challenges. A father often away with overnight on calls, a mother without support of family or friends, kids struggling being bilingual and bicultural, parents trying to live as Egyptians in America, and occasionally a slogan thrown specifically at Sally because of her hijab, and our children, exactly the same like what Sheikh Osama said, go back home. Yet through this all, and undeniably thanks to Sally's exceptional strength, perseverance, and commitment, Nashville came to be part of our identity. Our local friends and neighbors became our family. The city mosques became our home. Before long, our 2 years mission from England has become 26 years. Of course, every story has a finale. As we embraced Nashville, the city gave back to us as well. Our children flourished, 2 of whom are alumni of Vanderbilt, and our youngest is committed to play collegiate tennis at Lipscomb University. They are Muslims, Egyptians, Americans, Nashvillians. I would say Southern for my daughter and myself. She shared the pimento cheese sandwich with me. Trilingual and bicultural. Their success is the highlight of our story and the product of our sacrifice. Our story continues, and Nashville remains a key part of it. Our oldest son, thanks to Dr. Churchwell, is returning to Vanderbilt as an ophthalmologist, married to a beautiful woman from Virginia who will soon call Nashville home. Our middle son engaged to a beautiful Nashvillian, soon to add an Egyptian identity. and of course to be continued with our daughter and what will happen next. Thank you all for listening to our story. I would like to thank Dr. Churchwell, the Vanderbilt community, the Nashville Public Library, and all those involved for that opportunity to share.
Tell me, he pulled a short straw. He did a pretty good job. Sally, did he do okay? He did okay, didn't he? Thank you. It was overtime. That's overtime. I said he's overtime. That's right. Great. Ahmed Amar, please share with us.
A little short, so I got to move this down. Hey, everybody. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Churchwell, to Vanderbilt, and to the Nashville Public Library for arranging this event. It's been amazing, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And then thank you to everyone for coming and to hear our stories. My name is Ahmed Ammar. I'm from Libya. I'm a little more new to Nashville. Unlike my counterparts here, been here for almost 10 years now. But I'll start with a brief history of my country, and then both my parents and my story, and how I ended up in Nashville and why I'm calling it home. So very similar to Tunisia, Libya has a rich history coming from the Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Ottomans, and we were occupied by the Italians until 1951 when we declared our independence. Some of the best kept Roman ruins to this day are actually in Libya. A lot of people are surprised to hear that, but very, very rich culture. If you ever have the chance to visit Libya, you'll see an interesting mix of Mediterranean culture, Arab culture, but then you'll see pasta and coffee on every corner from the Italian influences that we have. But that's a very quick, brief history of Libya. My story starts with my parents. They actually aren't in Nashville. My dad, he left Libya when he was 18 in 1981, and we eventually ended up settling in California. Growing up there, I was a student athlete, and so I was recruited to come visit Lipscomb University, ironically. And I remember when the letter first came in the mail, I looked at my friends and I was like, "What's a Lipscomb?" I'm like, "What? I've never heard of that before." Like Nashville, Tennessee. Like I never thought I'd want to come here at all. But they called me and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to come visit." And I said, "You guys are gonna fly me out?" They're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I'll take the trip. Who cares? I'm not gonna go here." I was 18. I wanted to take a trip. But luckily enough, I fell in love with the city. I think the moment I flew in and was greeted by the kindness of my coach and my future teammates at the time. And I remember I came home, and then the next day I called my coach and I committed to Lipscomb and said, "I'm gonna come to Nashville." And at the time, everyone thought I was kind of crazy for it. Why would you leave? Whatever, you've never been there before, your family. But I just felt a really unique connection to the city, and that kind of continued to grow. When I first came, it was definitely different for me, right? I was used to my family, my Libyan community in Nashville. It's funny, although Libya is really big on the map, we're actually the smallest in terms of population compared to anyone in North Africa. We're only 7 million people. There's only 2 or 3 families that have been in Libya, or that have been from Libya that have been in Nashville for a while. I was really lucky to connect with them as soon as I came, and they were a big help. But it wasn't just the Libyan community, it was the entire Nashville community, both from my fellow North Africans to the local Nashvillians who made me feel welcome. I didn't get to go back often to California while I was in Nashville, but I immediately felt the connection and the love that the people in Nashville have for others and how welcoming they were to me. And it made me feel really, really at home. So I'm super thankful to that to this day. I joke around with some of my friends here where they'd be like, "Hey man, do you remember in high school when we used to do this?" And I'm like, "I didn't go to high school with you guys." It just we felt so connected to each other, And so now I'm super fortunate to call. I'm super fortunate to call Nashville my home, and to stay here for for the rest of my life, hopefully. But yeah, not as brief and long as a history as the rest of my counterparts here, but I'm super thankful to the community for welcoming me to Nashville and making me feel home here. And thank you again to everyone. So.
You can leave that jacket on the chair when you leave. I really like that jacket. That's cool. Thank you, Amar. Karima, please come share your story.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight, Dr. Churchwell, and thanks to the Nashville Library. I don't know if you guys had planned to stay this long, but I gotta tell you, one thing that we're really good at in North Africa is not caring about time. And I think my colleagues here did a really good job defining that. And I'll probably follow them, but I'll try to stick to the plan. So, so good evening, y'all. I know I say it horribly, but I say it consistently now after being here in Nashville for over 22 years. Both my kids were not born here in Nashville. They were born in Chicago, but they do think they're Southerners. They do go out with bare feet a lot, so I don't know what that's about, but anyway, I am from Algiers. That's the capital of Algeria. We did get our independence from the French colonies in 1962. I would say we're fluent in French and Arabic, like most of my North African colleagues here. And I think we could claim a lot of things, and sometimes we even get to fight about it, like couscous, harissa, the Sahara. It's Algerian, it's Moroccan, it's Libyan, it's all North African. So we do share a lot in common. The one thing I just wanted to say is going back to Algeria, as you might have heard me say, we got our independence in 1962. We didn't do really well at managing our country, so in '89, there was like a civil war that really went crazy, and I think Algeria was one of the first countries that went through that. We did live through a lot. My brother was a police officer, and he couldn't even come home because it was just a big fight between the government and the other parties. And in 1996, while all we were watching on TV was Baywatch and Beverly Hills 90210, we thought that was really what America was. My husband won the green card lottery. And thank God, since we were both engineers, we were approved and we got to come in. We landed up in Chicago, which, let me tell you, the winter does not end and it starts way too early. That just took the will of living out of me right there. We really tried to toughen it up a little bit. We lived there for about 8 years where we learned English, because I came with no English, believe it or not. We had to figure out our engineering degrees because they were not accepted. We had to go back to college and get those out of the way. And we got a house because my husband winter and I could have died. So we decided to look south, and really we followed the jobs. We got 2 offers, one in Nashville, one in Miami. And we thought it would be wiser to raise our kids in Tennessee rather than Miami. We started our journey here in 2003. And I have to say, it was a wonderful journey coming in from close to Casbah, if you heard the word Casbah, where I used to live in Algiers, to the quiet Brentwood, Tennessee, where the lawn looked just like it was military precision. It was just beautiful and amazing. But at the same time, people would look at you, and with their eye contact, you don't know if they're giving you a hug or a background check. So That was quite an interesting thing we had to learn. But I have to say, the best thing really was their kindness and curiosity. Because you got to understand, if someone is different than you want to know what's in there. What are they from? What are they doing? What are their thoughts? What are their processes, their cultures? And we're all human after all. So I think we just learned over the years to make wonderful friends. When I remember your story about the friends that you have, I'm a little jealous, but I'm also thankful of the friends that we made over the years. And raising two Muslim kids in the South, let's just say it was an adjustment. Because I remember moving to Brentwood, and after the introductions, it was, what do you do? And if you don't get that question right, you better get the second one right. Which church do you belong to? We don't belong to church. We go to the mosque. So it was quite an interesting experience. But I have to say, over the last 22 years, Nashville did an amazing job where it just feels like a melting pot. And I have to give a shout out to Deloitte, because that was the reason we moved here in 2003. The diversity they had at that point was really what kept us going here in Nashville. And we decided to just stick it. And I'm thankful we did, because really the house is where you build your life. And I think we built it here in Nashville. And thank you so much for coming in and taking the time to listen to us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. There we go. Thank you very much. Great stories. We're going to end with a special guest. James Cole McCoy is from South Sudan, and he was with us at the last session, but he had such a unique story as an artist and an activist that we want him to come and share that story again here. It seemed appropriate for North Africa. So James, I'm going to let you talk, and he'll talk somewhat about his art here too. James.
Let me try. Good evening. You can see over there on the screen special guests, but I sing. Last month I was here for East Africa event, but right now I don't see anyone from Sudan. So when you go on a website, Lost Boy, you're not gonna see Lost Boy of Sudan. You can see, you're not gonna see Lost Boy of South Sudan, Lost Boy of Sudan. So all these two countries are my country, South Sudan, Northern Sudan. So Sudan was separate. Sudan was one country. They were separate like some years ago, 2011. We were one country, Sudan. So I'm from Sudan and South Sudan. So let me begin. Sudan was one country, and they separated 2011. But we gained independence 1956, sorry. I'm not a politician, I'm a painter. I just want you to know. So Sudan was gained independent in 1956 from colonies. And then the war started in 1983 between North and South Sudan. And then they separated 2011, but we are still Sudanese. And I became a painter when I left Sudan and went to refugee camp. So I tell people about our story. South Sudan, Northern Sudan, we are suffering a lot. We lost a lot of people this war. That war, we lost like 2.5 million from Sudan. And this is a painting over there, you can see. I'm proud, I have 3 countries, and I will tell you which are the 3 countries. I will start with present countries. Present country, I'm here in the United States, is my country. I'm a citizen of the United States, and I will start with Nashville, Tennessee. You can see right over here. This is downtown. I live in downtown. And I call this painting my favor. And you can see a lot of things over there. Tennessee Titan, I'm a fan of Tennessee Titan. Whenever I'm painting and they play in the studio, in a Nissan Stadium, I put it on TV and I'm watching. get my painting. Sometimes I miss it, watch the TV. I mess up sometime and I go back and correct it. And also, I watch news a lot. That's why you see Channel 2. Sometimes they have a tornado, I have to watch the news so I can go down. And also, you can see people over there, they are going to the game, Tennessee Titan. And you can see downtown Batman building. And come to this painting too. This is a time I left Ethiopia during the war. I lived in Ethiopia for 4 years. I left Sudan. Let me go back to my story. I left Sudan when I was 11 years old, walked from the jungle from South Sudan to Ethiopia, was man a lost boy from 5 to 11 years old. I was 11 years old. So we walked from Sudan to Ethiopia for 3 months. They say like 3 months, but I really don't remember. I was like little. Man boy died from there, and then we lived in Ethiopia for 4 years. And then the war started again, we left Ethiopia. We walked from Ethiopia to Kenya for 6 months. Man boy died, and by the time we don't have like GPS and we don't know where to go. So when I left Sudan, my mom and other elders, they told us they told us the name of the star. You can see the blue star, they come from the east, going to west. So we go to Kenya, we come from west to east. We follow the direction of the star. See one guy is pointing the star. And you see one bright star, they call Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is coming like 1 o'clock, you can see the bright one. So like, why I continue to make a painting is not only for a lost boy of Sudan, it's not only to tell a story about Sudanese, it's a story about people who were affected by war in all over the world. Like now the war is all over, and please, I need you to pray so the peace will be all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome, Doctor.
Really amazing story. We have Simon Tatum, who's a director for the EADJ program, the Engine for Art, Democracy, and Justice, who's been sponsoring James in his work. He has a comment here.
Thank you, Dr. Churchwell. Good evening, everybody. Yes, as Dr. Churchwell said, my name is Simon Tatum, and I work for the Engine for Art, Democracy, and Justice. We call it EADJ for short. It's a research initiative started at Vanderbilt University by Vanderbilt faculty member Maria Magdalena Campos Pons. The research initiative is trans-institutional, and it's an ongoing collaboration. Every year we do, or every academic year, we do thematic programming. This academic year, so starting in August of 2024 and ending now here in May 2025, we had a theme called Somewhere We Are Human, and the idea behind it was to explore migrant stories, refugee stories, and to think about the effect of migration on the development of culture and creativity here in Nashville. Through this program of event, we've done a series of art exhibitions, film screenings, and artist discussions. James McQuark has been one of our featured artists who we're really happy to have a solo show in our space back in the fall. And with that said, the whole idea behind this sort of theme for this year that we're wrapping up is thinking about a place where we're envisioning with the artists Nashville as a city where no one's humanity is put into question. So if you have any questions about James or about our programming at the university, please come and find me after the talk, and I'll be happy to tell you more about how you can follow us. Thank you. Oh, yes. And if you want to see more of James's paintings, he's going to have a new solo show that's over at Nolensville Pike next month in June at Casa de Fuan. And you can speak with him to find out all the details about that new solo exhibition where he's going to be featuring lots of new paintings. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. You can see the richness of the stories here. Storytelling, it was interesting to hear Shiko-sama talking about storytelling, and it's really kind of a fundamental part of actually us knowing more about each other, because it allows us to do something very human. That's just share our lives, share our stories. And we all learn from each other from that. So I thank everybody for coming, our community leaders. I appreciate Sheikh Osama for helping me put this together. I want to thank Samara Ali. Samara had to leave, and her team from Millions of Conversation, the EADJ team, and of course my colleagues from the National Public Library, Rebecca Price, and of course, we could not do this program. No Marla Robertson, my executive assistant, no program. So Marla, thank you once again for helping us put this together. You know, this is our last show. We will continue the journey to listen to members of our minority communities and other communities. As Robert Frost said, you must be active in listening. You must listen what he called a quote-unquote listening ear. We will try to continue that process as we move into next year with our new set of programs. And I want to thank everybody for coming, thank these great folks for sharing their stories, and look forward to seeing you all next year. So thank you all for coming.